Everyone for joining us in our special meeting of the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. This meeting will be featuring a presentation by the MTA New York Transport, right? New York City Transport, concerning the renovations that are taking place on the NW line, the Astoria Boulevard stop. This is something that's going to affect everyone in the neighborhood in many, many ways. So it should be a very interesting presentation. Before we started, I'd like to thank the Family Church, which is which has this beautiful facility and inviting us to come down. I'd like to thank Lucas. Where's Lucas? There he is. Lucas, why don't you stand up? He's the pastor of this church. Good. Yep. And also we have Victor and Eric back in the video booth helping us out, so we appreciate it. We'd also like to thank the 114 Precinct for coming down. As always, they're great supporters of us, and we really appreciate it. And also, I'll mention a few people, but I don't want to, if I miss somebody, don't get mad at me, but I'd like to thank Blank Monty from City Planning. Okay, we have George Rivera, upstanding community member. Kevin Hernandez, Vice President of the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association. He's back there. Okay. Also Joe Vaccaro, Mayor of Newtown Avenue between 31st and 32nd Streets. Okay, and okay, so there's one thing I wanted to mention. As you know, we've been in existence for 5 years, and our mission statement, our mandate is to try and not only to promote cultural, economic growth in the area down here, and we're trying to with the help of the city, we're trying to do everything we can to affect the quality of life in a positive way here. And part of that is also economic development. And towards that end, and we've been helped by a grant from our councilman, Costa Constantinides. We are developing a website, a searchable business directory for the area. So we've just got it up. And if you can slide that down, okay, you're going to see that there's the OANA business directory. If you click on that, oops. Okay, if you slide down, oh, okay, so those are the examples of some, we have some examples of different companies that have listed so far. Also, on this site, if you go to our home page and you do click on that, you're going to have an actual a form to fill out with all the information that you'd like to do about your company. We're looking for companies not only that exist here, but also companies that do business here. They don't have to be based here, but we want to create something that everybody can use. We're not only looking for retail, but also business to business. So if you're a developer and you're looking for brick or you're looking for some materials like that, we'd like to see if you can buy local. That's one of the things that we really want to try and do is, you know, almost create a self-sufficient neighborhood, you know, everybody supporting everybody else. So if you have further questions about it, you know, you have our email on the website. If you look on your agendas, you'll see that the email and the contact information is all on there. Please let your friends and neighbors know. And also, it is free to sign up. We would appreciate a donation if you can do it. And also, if you do sign up with a $50 donation, we do have T-shirts. So you just let us know what size you are and we can get you that T-shirt. Is there any questions about this? Okay, thanks. Okay. I think it's been a very interesting couple of days. It's been an issue locally about the renovations of all these stations on the N line. As you know, there have been issues as to accessibility. We work closely with a group called Upstand, who's been advocating for accessibility. And recent events have actually made that more and more important, more of an emphasis. The recent accident that happened on 53rd Street, and we know it was all on our minds. But you know, when we have situations like what's happening here on Astoria Boulevard, when it's fully explained, this is the remedy. We're so glad that we're having this facility built with the proper ADA accessibility. So I think there will be a lot of inconvenience, but I think that our thoughts are in the long run that it's going to be worth it. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to the MTA.
So I'll just say a few words before I turn it over. My name is Howie Levine. I do government and community relations for the MTA and responsible for the Astoria line and everything else in Community Board 1. So we're here tonight just to talk about our plan for Astoria Boulevard. And so I'm just going to turn it over to our project manager, Vic Waugh, who's here, along with Benny Wood, who is our construction manager for the project. We're going to talk about Astoria Boulevard and then also some track work we have coming to the Astoria line as part of a broader kind of reconstruction and renewal of the entire line in Astoria. And I know that some parts of that have been completed and some parts are yet to come. So I'm going to turn it over to Vic, and we're going to go through the presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Howie. I think Rich made a great introduction and some positive things about the project, and we can go through some of the slides. So the major scope of work is to replace street and platform stairs. We have 4 stairs from street to platform, street to mezzanine, and 4 from mezzanine to the platform. So total 8 stairs are going to be replaced. We'll install 4 elevators, 2 from street to mezzanine and 2 from mezzanine to platform. So with that, the station will be ADA compliant. We'll have to demolish the entire mezzanine area and rebuild it. As you all know, there's a vertical clearance issue under that area when vehicles come off of the Hoyt Avenue South. And you must have seen there are several hits to the structure. This project will alleviate that situation by rebuilding a shallower mezzanine structure and also lowering the street by a few inches. So we'll end up with bigger vertical clearance for the vehicles. We're also going to reinforce the street columns that support the mezzanine area because we're adding significant load of 2 elevators in that area, and the foundations of those columns will be strengthened. We will replace the entire platform roofs as well as both walkway roofs, east and west walkway. Next, please. So looking a little more into details. Yes, sorry. If we look at the Columbus Triangle area, as you can see, the arrow points to where the new street elevator is going to be. The green shaded area will be the reconstruction of the sidewalk area in that portion of the Columbus Triangle. Next. So looking at the overall view, you can see the Columbus Triangle. This is where the new elevator will go and the new stairs. Now if we look diagonally across by Hoyt Playground, where the stairs used to be is where now the new elevator is going to be constructed. This is the fence of the Hoyt Playground. And so because of that, we'll have new stairs going on the sidewalk along Hoyt Avenue North. And that will connect to the west walkway. Here again, that shows that layout. The stairs are now going to be along here, and the new elevator. So in this view also you can see where the stairs come down. That's where the elevator will be, and the stairs will be along here. Next. These are the typical stairs that go from mezzanine to the platform level. When we demolish the mezzanine floor, these stairs will also be demolished and reconstructed. Next. As we all know, the walkway surfaces are in, let's put it this way, that they need repairs. So those repairs will be they have been carefully planned, and they will be staged and will be done. The supporting steel, a lot of it you don't even see, but it needs some work, and that's going to be done by putting shields underneath, temporary shielding for access and under the platform, as well as the walkway girders. Related repairs will be done. Now, there are certain sections of the walkways that we're going to replace the girders that support those walkways, especially on Hoyt Avenue North. This span and this span of the walkway, both east and west, we're going to replace these main girders and connect to the existing structure to basically rehabilitate that entire structure. The billboards have to come down, so we have to coordinate that work during construction and then put them back at an appropriate time. There's going to be some artwork as part of enhancing the whole station experience. So on the west elevation, you can see this particular span on Hoyt Avenue South and this particular span on Hoyt Avenue again. Both areas will receive, at the walkway right now where you see open areas between the columns as you walk through, that's where the art glass will be installed. That design is being worked on in terms of what sort of art that will go in. And on the other face, again, right over the Grand Central Parkway spans, right here, there will be art glass installation. Okay. Now, the scope of work at the platform level, there will be ADA boarding zone that will be created. The platform planks are precast planks, so they will be raised so that wheelchairs can easily get into the cars. New platform edges will be constructed. Damaged platform precast panels and the supporting members, they will all be rehabbed, repair the damaged steel. The existing platform canopies that were damaged during Hurricane Sandy, they will be completely replaced. In fact, some of the work has been done already. Some asbestos remediation in the roof members had to be done. We took care of it already. And once the station shutdown period begins, these roofs will be replaced. Then there are other enhancements, such as replace existing stair refuge enclosures with new glass enclosures. Again, there will be some art element associated with that. Replace platform light posts, signs, gates, railings, benches, sandboxes, and refuse bins. So that would be the amount of work at the platform level. What we don't see, again, I guess you see it from one platform when you look at the other platform, some of the deterioration that has occurred underneath those platform slabs. So we'll have to repair those conditions also. In some cases, replace some of the elements. Next. So in cross-section, we look at the overall station. You can see the street level. This is the mezzanine. So the columns that support, as I mentioned, will be strengthened with their foundation. This is the new mezzanine that would be shallower, and the street will be lowered, giving you adequate vertical clearance in that area. The new canopies at the platform level, the new elevators that would go from mezzanine up to the platform. So the phase one part of the project has begun since fall of 2018 and will continue through March before the next phase begins. In that portion, we have protected trees in the Columbus Triangle area, plus near Hoyt Playground. We removed the bus shelters and relocated them, as you know, one in front of the Starbucks, and the other one stays on Hoyt Avenue North, but it's further towards the bridge, relocated. That was to create room to work and take out these two diagonally opposite stairs. So those stairs are already been removed, as you know. Next thing is we have to do some foundation work so we can install elevators from street to mezzanine. We can install new stairs. We also have to install some piles for these column lines to strengthen those foundations. So that work will begin shortly. Back up for a minute. And there's a street work where we're adding new drainage, catch basins, and pipes to facilitate that drainage work. There's a next element in the later phase where we're going to do street resurfacing. That would come towards the end after the station is fixed. And final thing would be to do that and do some new bus pad, new lighting, new signage at the street level. Okay, next. So in March, when the station shutdown begins for a 9-month period, the trains will bypass through. And to facilitate the movement, we will have traffic agents at the intersections, Hoyt Avenue North and 31st, Hoyt Avenue South and 31st, and Astoria Boulevard and 31st. And here are the timings given for them. Contractors' work hours, Monday through Friday during the daytime, and Saturday, Sunday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are weekends where the contractor will have to work throughout the weekend from Friday night to Monday morning. During that time, there are about estimated to be 20 instances where entire intersection will be closed and there will be traffic detours provided during that time. And as I mentioned, we have to tear down the entire mezzanine floor. You cannot do that by partially closing certain lanes. You have to close the entire, and they have to rebuild all the steel framing and other things. So those are the kinds of instances where we have to close the intersections. But the principle during the rest of the period is going to be travel lanes, minimum one in each direction during work hours on 31st Street, that's during daytime, and 2 lanes in each direction during non-working hours. When I say non-working, contractors not working. Hoyt Avenue North, 4 travel lanes and 1 bus lane at all times, and Hoyt Avenue South, 5 travel lanes at all times. So that's the basic fundamental principle on which all the traffic schemes are going to be based at different times, and you'll see different lanes closed for a reason, to gain access and to facilitate construction. Next. So that would be the intersection closure that I talked about. We also have to not only rebuild the mezzanine, but install new elevators through the mezzanine. And I already talked about signage and traffic enforcement. Next. So there's a plan of general circulation of traffic. As we get closer, we'll get into those details, but just fundamentally between 31st Street and 21st Street is how that circulation will happen, so that when the intersection is closed, we can get the traffic around it. Next. So if we look at the 3 stations and the current status, 39th Avenue, Dutch Kills, and Broadway, it reopened in January of this year. The work will be finished by June. Ditmar's major work is already complete by end of March, will be complete, and the rest of the tail end will be finished by June. And for Astoria Boulevard, we'll be closing the station in March of this year, and it will reopen in December, in 9 months. The elevators, new elevators will be operational by August of 2020. And the entire project will be finished by November of 2020. Next. So the train service during closure, 9 months of full closure. During closure, Ditmars and 30th Avenue will provide alternate subway service. During 13 weekends, where we will have all track closures at the station, the service will not run through north of Queensboro Plaza. During that time, shuttle buses will be provided for those weekends. And all track closures right now, if we go up to June, are listed here, starting from March 16th. So those weekends is when service will be disrupted. Next. I will let Javi talk about the track work.
Thanks, Vic. So in addition to the Astoria Boulevard work that Vic's talked about, we wanted to highlight some other work we're going to be having on the Astoria line partially on the same time. So in general, track work is replacing the elevated track panels that kind of make up a track on an elevated line like the Astoria line. And so what that means is that, as you can see kind of a bit in the picture, that the track on elevated lines is actually all attached to one piece. It's about a 39-foot piece of track that you literally take out and then put a new one in almost like it's a Lego piece. It's a pretty unique thing, and it's interesting to watch. But so as part of kind of the whole renewal of the Astoria line, we're doing the station work and we're also doing the track work, which will increase the reliability of the service on the line. As we replace the track, there's some signal equipment on the track as well, and so that can make the line more reliable when it's brand new. And so that means fewer delays for customers. And so since 2007, we've already done some replacement of the track work. As you guys are probably aware, we did in two sections. We did the curve between Queensboro Plaza and 39th Ave, Dutch Kills. And we also did some track work between Ditmars and Astoria Boulevard. In addition, we also did 10 track switches, which help the train switch between tracks, which is especially important at Ditmars Boulevard when the trains switch between tracks as they come in and out of the terminus. And additionally, the new track helps us to maintain those ADA compliant platform gaps. So when we have new track, we can make sure we have the ADA compliant platform, and we put the track and we kind of align that so that when a particular portion of the track is generally right in the middle where the conductor is, the gap between the train and the platform is very narrow and ADA compliant. So it's as safe as possible for people in wheelchairs, walkers, canes, etc. Next, please. So as part of the next phase of track work, we're replacing the northbound track on the local, so on the outside, on the east side of the street. We're going to replace nearly 5,000 feet of track between 36th Ave and 30th Ave. This section of track is over 35 years old, which, if it doesn't sound old already, I know we think about how often we have to do this. It's, we repave our streets much more often than every 35 years because they have large vehicles going over it, and it's the same for these track panels that need to be replaced. And so when we do this work, when we have those shutdowns for Astoria Boulevard work that Vic mentioned, we'll also be doing this track work to minimize kind of the inconvenience of this work as a project by itself. So whenever we do other work on the line, whenever we have no train service, we'll be also working on this as much as possible. So there are a number of weeks, and they'll be on the next slide, where there's just so much work we can't have it all overlap with additional station work and additional station closures, where what will happen is the trains running northbound will run express from Queensboro Plaza first to Astoria Boulevard, and then after Astoria Boulevard closes, they'll run all the way express to Ditmars Boulevard. And so riders will need to come back from Ditmars to access Broadway, 39th, 30th, and 36th. So here's the hours that work. So in addition, the last thing I was going to say is that work, we strive to do it as the least inconvenient riders as possible. So we do it in the midday between the morning and evening rush hours. So it won't begin until 9:45, and it will end at 3:30 before the evening rush starts. And so that'll just be Monday through Friday. So it'll be Monday through Friday, the exception is President's Day, and then 2 weekends we have scheduled right now, which are March 9th to 10th and March 30th to April 1st. So as I outlined the service plan, additionally, one thing I mentioned is that, I didn't mention, is that the W will run to 96th Street on the Q when this happens. We need one more thing is that panel work is very weather dependent because we're lifting 39-foot panels of track. We can't do it when the winds are too high. We can't do it with any form of precipitation. So while we have it scheduled for every day, every weekday, if it's raining, if there's high winds, it won't be happening. So make sure to check our website, check the app. You can see if it's going to be operating on a given day or not. So next. So just, and I can bring Vic back up, but these are just some pictures of the work performed to date on Astoria Boulevard, most of which we just went over. Next. So as Vic mentioned, removing the asbestos from the roofs. This took place in the fall when the train line was otherwise closed for other work on 39th and on Broadway. And there were no customers in the stations and everything was contained and signs were also up about that. Next. As mentioned, relocated the bus stops and detoured some of the walkways around the work. Next. Removed one staircase at Hoyt Playground. As you can see, it's just not there. The other bus stop relocated. And the other currently removed stair, as you're well aware. And then lastly, the last thing I wanted to end with is that as part of all of this work on the Astoria line that has happened already and is going to continue happening, we've created a new web page that's dedicated to this work, and it's on the bottom of your agendas tonight as well. Thank you, Richard. And so at this website, this goes through all the work in about the same level of detail as we went through it, so people who aren't here tonight can see that, can understand a little bit better. We've also produced about a 2.5-minute video just giving people a little bit of a summary about the work and why it needs to be done. I encourage you all to go watch it after the meeting. We've gone into a lot more detail on the work than that video does, but it gives the sense of the work for people who aren't here tonight. And so that's a place where you can go in addition to our normal channels on our website, on our MyMTA app, and check for service updates as well. Yeah. So with that, Richard, I think the idea is we'll take questions. Yeah. Thank you for being such a... Sure. Thanks for being such a polite audience, and I'm shocked we had no one jump in with a question. So.
Yes, we'll open it for questions. I have a couple questions quickly. One thing I'd like to know, the switches that you're putting, or not the switches, the signals you're putting in, are they the new digital signals that are going in, or is this replacing the mechanical ones?
No, it's not anything. It's not CBTC. It's nothing of that nature, unfortunately. Yeah, it's nothing like that. It's just that when we replace the track, there's signal equipment on the track that says when a train goes by and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell us if there's anything in the works along those lines? Because I know that greatly that you get a lot more use out of each foot of track. I know if you have the new signals. So.
I'll get back to you on that, Richard. Mm-hmm. I can check, but I don't believe so.
Okay. And if you have questions, please, we are taking minutes, so if you could give us your name, okay, before you ask the question.
Hi, I'm Lisa Greenberg. I was just curious as to when you're going to post signs on the stations to let people know how it's going to be publicized since it's coming up real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So we strive to post signs for any closure like this at least 30 days in advance, and that's still our plan here. I mean, we're of course here, far more than 30 days in advance to publicize this and get the word out, and putting the website up and pushing the video out so people know it's coming. But in terms of specific signs at the station, it'll be at least 30 days ahead of time.
Excuse me, we're taking minutes to do.
Yeah, thank you. Lisa again. 'Cause February 4th is in like a minute. Our signs are already posted for the work hours. They're going to be doing the 9:45 to 3:30, etc.
For the track work, I'd have to double check, but
I just encourage you to, because that is still technically like when a lot of people are running to work, because that's when I go to work and I see a lot of people at the station still. So just some signs would be good.
appreciate it. We're definitely conscious that we're not, we're not avoiding everyone's commute with that timeline, but we try and do our best.
Thank you.
Okay.
Neil Herden, local resident. I just want to get some clarification. You're not doing any major work on the Ditmars Boulevard station, no subways, no escalators, no major work. Is that correct?
What do you mean that there's...
No, we've been talking about Astoria Boulevard, but what about the final stop, Ditmars Boulevard station? Is there any work planned on, significant work planned on Ditmars?
What is...
Actually, there's a lot of major work that's been done on Ditmars Boulevard. We've replaced quite a bit of steel. We've also replaced the canopy, new mezzanine, relocation of the booth. So it's quite a bit of major work that's there. No elevator and no escalator at that station.
We'd like to add elevators to every station. Unfortunately, we have some serious funding constraints, as everyone I think is unfortunately aware of. And that's been true at all the stations we've worked on the line, that we'd like to add elevators to every station if we could. We're hoping to add elevators to 50 new stations within the next 5 years as part of our fast forward plan that we were in Albany today, earlier this morning, to try and get funding for. And we'll continue to do that.
Hi, I'm Charles Eggleston. I wonder if it's possible to get the Q100 bus to stop at Hoyt Avenue North. Right now, it means a walk either up or down 15 minutes to access Queensboro Plaza. And right now, I find it very upsetting that announcements are made at the Astoria station that the Q102 operates, and they, as an alternative when the Q102 does not stop at Astoria Boulevard. Thank you.
We can definitely look into that.
Anything else? I'm working my way back.
Yes, hi, my name's Irene Arholekas. I'm really concerned about the issue with the elevators, especially in light of what happened yesterday. I really want to know, how does the MTA decide which station gets an elevator, and does the public have any input into that?
Yeah, so what I can say about that is actually next, it's February 6th, so I believe that's next Wednesday. We're actually having a public meeting at 2 Broadway, MTA headquarters, that's open to the public, for the public specifically to come and give us their suggestions for where they'd like to see elevators in the system. So that's 6 o'clock at 2 Broadway. That's specifically the purpose of the meeting, and I know a flyer went out yesterday. And so that's, we are seeking out more public input to how we decide which stations get elevators.
Hi. Oh, good evening. My name is Marcia Henry, local resident, and I have a few questions.
Sure.
Mostly related to the M60, because my family relies heavily on the M60. I have both kids who attend school in the city. And right now, there's like a half an hour period between 6:45 and 7:15 where the buses are quite delayed. And so I'm really concerned when the subway actually shuts down, whether there's going to be any additional M60 service going in, because I anticipate there'll probably be a lot of people who default to taking the M60. It's already quite crowded in the mornings. I also have a current question about safety in the M60. I know that you've relocated the bus stop from the Columbus area to Starbucks, and there is a gas station close to the Starbucks, which we have to walk by, and there's not really a sidewalk there. Because what tends to happen is that the cars going to the gas station drive on the sidewalk, park on the sidewalk, and when I come up with my 2 kids, it's a little bit challenging to make sure I'm ensuring their safety when we have to walk along that route. Now, I know maybe we could try to cross the street during the heavy traffic, but I think if there's something that could be done to kind of make it a little bit more safe and actually make it a designated sidewalk area for the gas station instead of having cars and people kind of struggling for that space.
Sure. In terms of the sidewalk, that would be an issue for the City's Department of Transportation. I'm happy to forward your concerns to them, but it's not something we have any jurisdiction over. Actually, even bus shelters are the City's Department of Transportation. We ask for them to put them places, and they do, but it's not us, it's them. And in terms of ridership on the M60, I can get back to you on that. What I could say briefly is that I'm trying to picture the M60's route and how riders would take that instead of going north, east, west, the M60 route, instead of going north, south on the NW line, and why that would.
Oh, well, because a lot of people get off, when they take the NW, get off at the 6 train. You can take the M60 to the 6 train. We do the M60 to the M15
So you do that
sometimes.
I got it, I
Yeah,
understand.
that's another alternative.
Got it,
Sometimes you
I
take the M60, because my son goes to school close to Columbus. Sometimes you can go to the 1-2 train. Like,
Got
we
it.
do different alternatives.
Yep.
Sometimes we take the N, we take it to the 1-2 at Times Square. If not, we just take it all the way around to Columbia.
Got it. Absolutely understood. So that's something I can take back. I think as this shutdown happens, we will continue to monitor crowds on the M60, and if we see that it is too crowded, we would try and add more buses and make sure that there's enough bus service for the people that are trying to use it.
Good evening. My name is Alan Vukic. You guys stated that 20 occasions the whole intersection will be shut down. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you guys know the duration of each time it will be shut down? How long it will be?
Yes, I apologize. So if that wasn't clear, so there would be 20 weekends that they would be shut down. Yes.
So those would be the 20 occasions. And you guys going to list that, or at what time it starts or not? And
so I'll ask Vic to speak to that. I'm not sure if it's been determined yet exactly what the time would be.
Typically, it would be Friday night to Monday early morning.
So, and how do you guys plan on rerouting Hoyt Avenue South? Is it going to go on 29th Street?
So we can, if you want, we can go back to the map.
We can go back to the
proposed
detour map that was put up on the screen.
Yeah, actually, that was something I wanted to go over. That this is one a very important aspect that I think that maybe you need to explain one more time, so everybody has a firmer handle on it. Also, is this information available online?
Okay, so the next slide. Back.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yeah, that one. So for Hoyt Avenue South, as you can see, you turn on 29th and then go along Columbus and then back on 25th Street. That would be the loop around.
That's going to be a mess.
It is not going to be easy.
So Friday through Sunday?
Yeah.
And what about the Hoyt Avenue North side? Where are they going?
Hoyt Avenue North really is not impacted because that closure stops right at the face of Hoyt Avenue North. So that side is open. Yes.
Would there be traffic advisories? Maybe it might be more interesting for people to
Absolutely.
take 21st Street to 30th Avenue, head up 30th Avenue, then across. I think that we may be looking for really major alternatives here. So.
Yes, and in the first couple of intersection closures, we're going to have a lot of traffic agents. We'll be watching how the traffic is moving or not moving, and we'll tweak those things as we go forward to facilitate that.
Hello, my name is Kevin Hernandez. Would you be removing the parked cars from Astoria Boulevard there and stuff so we can get better flow?
I think the enforcement will be stricter during that time.
Hi, my name is Joe Vaccaro, and I have a question. My understanding was the traffic coming off the bridge was going to be diverted up to 30th Street, all the way up to 30th Avenue. Is that the case? Because on 30th Avenue and 30th Street, they were putting up several brand new posts for new traffic lights, and we were told that work was being done because of your work. That all that traffic coming off the bridge was going to be diverted all the way up to 30th Avenue.
That wasn't, well, the way we see it is White Avenue South turning onto 29th, going along Columbus.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
we were told that that's what was going to happen. That's not the case?
I'm not sure who told you that,
Okay.
but we'll look into that.
All right, thank you.
Mother, can I ask, are you going to need a copy of this? A lot of questions are being asked, and I know that you would like copies of these questions so you can follow up. So I guess you want us to get these to you, or?
That'd be great, yes.
Okay.
And I just wanted to follow up on this plan. So this is all vetted by DOT, who does all of the traffic planning for the city. And so this is a plan that went through them, and this is what they came to as the best detour in the solution. And unfortunately, I'm not sure about that intersection and what those traffic lights were for. Given it already happened, it was probably for a different project, because anything for this detour wouldn't be for...
The work was going on right now. They just finished up the other day.
Oh, okay. But it's not ours, yeah, but...
Yeah, as Howie mentioned, the New York City agency called OCMC, they approve all the planned lane closures or major closures. So during the design phase, all of this was submitted through, and the permits were obtained to do this work. And when they look at any application, they look at the consequences of shutting the lanes down or shutting streets down and approve the best possible mitigation measure. And that's what we have. And as I mentioned, we will be watching and tweaking this as we go through.
Just a point of clarification, I don't know if I heard you correctly earlier, but you mentioned something about the W or the Q train stopping at 96. Is that, I guess I want to understand how that works, and that's during the closure. Are you having it, is it traveling from Ditmars to 96? And what station at 96? Did I misunderstand something?
Let me clarify. So it's not for the closure of Astoria Boulevard, it's for that track work on the, which I mentioned at the end there. The track work we have when we're replacing the track panels on the northbound track. During that, the W will run normally, except from 57th to 7th Avenue, it will run up to 96th Street along the Q line when that's happening. So that'll be those midday, that midday work. Correct. Yeah, but there'll still be N-train service running express northbound and running normally southbound.
Hi, Blake Monteith, speaking as a resident tonight. So I take the M60 somewhat often, and since the stop has been relocated, there's already quite significant delays because Astoria Boulevard, it has such heavy traffic. So I'm hearing that there may be some people in the area that would help with this flow, but could you release a more detailed plan in terms of how the M60's delays could be managed? I mean, because ultimately the M60 is a bus that's managed by your agency, correct?
Absolutely. When you say people that would help, you mean traffic agents, things like that. Yeah. So when, let me one second. We already have a detail where traffic agents will be in there. So two things. We'll bring the M60 issues back to our bus team and see what they can work out and what they can do to improve those delays for sure. And additionally, we do have a more detailed plan in terms of where traffic agents will be posted. All of the signs that are going to be posted for this detour. It's pretty complicated and hard to look at and not great for PowerPoint, but we're happy to share it if anyone wants to see it. And to follow up, there will be many traffic agents around helping to direct traffic when the full intersection is closed.
Hey, I'm Emmett, resident, and also I'm with OANA. I also, when the N and the W is not running, I wind up going down to the F. Have you guys, is there any concern that there are going to be dual closures at the same time? Because I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to have both my options cut out from under me some weekends.
Got it. That's something we can definitely look into. I know our track access team, who manages all of the closures citywide, trying to avoid things like that. I can't speak. I don't know all the F closures off the top of my head, but it's something we'll definitely consider. Yeah.
As usual, I feel like a game show host.
Hi, my name is Brianna Schafferberg, resident. A couple questions. First is a communication one. When you say you're going to get back to people, what do you mean by that? Are you going to be emailing all of us? I would just like more clarification on that. I work in PR, so I understand your perspective, but a little detail would be helpful.
Sure. Oh, so
I have a
so if
question,
Richard,
but I'll one at a time.
Yeah, so if Richard's going to provide us with a copy of the questions that were asked here tonight, which we would greatly appreciate, then we'd be happy to respond to those concerns and send it back to Richard, who can hopefully email it out to attendees who are here tonight through the sign-in list.
Okay.
Yeah, what I think
Great.
we'll end up doing probably is putting it, I put the answers online so it's access to everybody.
Okay,
Since I may
great.
not specifically know who said what,
Sure.
when, okay? So.
And will the PowerPoint be online as well?
So the PowerPoint, actually, there's an older version of this PowerPoint already online that we gave to the community board earlier this month. It's on the website that is on the agenda and that was listed at the last slide. But then we're going to be replacing it with this because this is a little more updated.
Okay. I actually had kind of a similar question to Richard. Okay. The signal, that is one of the most common issues with the transit. It's just signal problems, and like majority of the train doesn't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So could you just clarify what that means when there's a signal problem and how that's going to be improved and why the choice is made to not use the digital technology?
Sure. So, I'm sorry I don't have a video that's much easier to demonstrate this, but the signal system that most of the trains run on rely on a system where basically a train goes past a block. And maybe Benny's better to explain this. So the train passes a block. The block registers a train went by, and it doesn't let any other train go past that block it's on a timer. So literally it would be like, say, 2 minutes that no train can go past that. So now if that malfunctions, and say the timer malfunctions and actually it's stuck and it won't let any trains pass, then you have a delay, you have a problem that needs to be fixed, and that's where a signal problem can happen. That's one way they happen. There are a number of ways they happen, unfortunately. And so with CBTC, computer-based train control, we change that. It's all computerized, basically. We don't use that block system, and so it's a lot more streamlined. We can fit more trains on the same amount of track. And so we have that right now on the L and newly now on the 7 as well. And so it's very expensive. It's the largest piece of our fast forward plan, which has a tentative price tag of $40 billion. So it's not something that we add to lines lightly. And on certain lines, there are other constraints that even if we added that signal system, we couldn't necessarily add more trains because there's other issues or other problems that need to be worked out. And the biggest issue, and there's a map that is published as part of the fast forward plan that has in the first, if we were to fund this plan, then there would be which lines we try and work on in the first 5 years, and then the second 5 years after that. And it prioritizes mostly Manhattan because more trains are running on those lines, as, for example, in Astoria, you go into Manhattan and then the R comes in, so there's more trains on that section of track. And, for example, yesterday's issues were actually a signal problem in Manhattan, but had huge consequences for Astoria. And so that's why we'd prioritize that section of track before maybe Astoria. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. So what's happening for this basic structure? Sorry. Okay.
This is just the pieces that are part of the old block section of track. The old block system. Is that correct, Benny? There's a mic there, Benny.
Let me just explain to you the way it goes now.
There we go.
Let's go back 40 years. 40 years ago, we had switches where someone literally was in a tower and they pulled the switch. So we fast forward to what we did next. We did electrical. electrical work for a while. Now we're looking at the signaling system that we have now, and computer-based it would be actually the best, but imagine we have over 721 miles of track. I don't know how many thousands of switches we have. So it's going to take time, and Howie mentioned a price tag of $40 billion. So imagine trying to do, let's just, a number off the top of my head, since we have 721 miles of track, every, between 50 and 100 feet, there is a switch, not a switch, a ball that comes up. Now, that ball stops the train from actually rear-ending another train. So imagine every 50 feet where that ball or that signal is, it comes up. Now imagine trying to replace 721 miles every 50 feet. That's going to take some time. So we understand the dilemma of how it affects everyone's travel. Remember, it affects us too because we use the train as well as you all do. But we're in the process of trying to do whatever we can to minimize any type of signal problems or switch problems for that matter. On the Astoria line, they've replaced quite a few switches thus far. They haven't exactly put the computer-based signaling system in place yet, but that's not to say it will never happen. The goal is to bring our entire system up to an elevated level. So we want to modernize the entire system. That is the goal. So for now, though, we're doing the best we can and working with what we have in the areas where it's most, I guess, used. I'm not going to say most important, but where the trains are most flooded out, or meaning tons and tons of trains coming in and into that on that track or utilizing that switch. So it's going to take some time, but that is the goal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just to add to what Benny said, so for example, replacing the track, adding CBTC to the Manhattan section of track would actually benefit riders in Astoria more than replacing the Astoria line track with CBTC.
Questions? Yes.
Hello, Claire Doyle, OANA. Very interesting presentation, thank you. A quick question about the public meeting to suggest stations that would benefit from elevators. Last year, during various advocacy for increased accessibility of Astoria stations, we were told that not every station, and I think you alluded to this, not every station it's physically possible to add elevators to. So for instance, the Broadway station on the NW, which just reopened, I believe is close to 100 years old. And we were told, I think, that it was physically it's too narrow. Is that true? Is there any point in suggesting the Broadway station? If the MTA already has it on it, do not even think about adding elevators to the station list.
So I would say that, well, all of the stations in the line here in Astoria is actually 102 years old. Wow. So, yeah, just keep that in mind as we really need to do some serious work here.
This is why you're doing serious work on Astoria Boulevard.
Absolutely. In terms of physical constraints with older stations and things like that, I don't think we have a list of stations that are, do not replace elevators. At least I certainly hope not. Our goal is to have every station be accessible. We're doing that piece by piece. We're hoping 50 accessible stations in the next 5 years. And many more to come after that. But yeah, definitely worth suggesting any station that you feel there's a big need.
Hi, I'm Adam Fisher-Cox. I'm a resident. I recognize this is more the DOT's purview, but you're here, so I'm a little concerned that the detour we're talking about from Hoyt Avenue South onto 29th Astoria Boulevard, maybe focusing exclusively on moving the cars through here, where given that the station will be closed, bus options are going to be important. Was there any consideration or conversation around things such as removing parking on that block, adding a temporary bus lane, things like that would make sure that the Q19 and M60 can continue through there even if car traffic is highly congested?
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tony Mazzara. I'm a president of a local association. The question from two of our members that are on a wheelchair was about the elevator. You just mentioned that you send out a flyer. How are we going to get this flyer regarding the meeting that we can also give it to our members for February 6th? I just found out now because you mentioned before.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, the accessibility, event. Let me come find me after the meeting.
Just a quick follow-up just on what he said earlier. As an alternative to the M60 congestion issue when there's a shutdown, I know this is probably not your area either, but if there's a way to coordinate with the ferry system to have that as an alternative for people to get within the city, I was told earlier that is not you, but it would be nice if you guys could coordinate that to kind of increase the amount of ferries that are there, especially throughout the summer months.
We also love transfers, but
yeah, the ferry system is run by the city, by the Economic Development Corporation. Our hope is that when we have the dates finalized for these detours, that there will be, people will see them, people will make alternate travel options. They'll either not drive near Astoria Boulevard, they'll bike, they'll take other options, they'll take the shuttle buses, depending on what and that's part of why we have the website. That's why we're trying to push that out as much as possible so people are aware of the closures and the different service plans ahead of time and can plan accordingly.
Hi, I got one more question. With all the new rules you guys are putting, have you guys thought about maybe implementing solar panels to offset the cost of the electric for the lighting in the stations?
That's something I have to get back to you on. That's something I haven't seen at other stations. I'm not sure. I know we have a bus depot that has solar panels and things like that, but I'm not sure about the constraints of putting it on top of a station. I imagine it adds another layer of complexity if it needed to be maintained, if something went wrong that would maybe impact train service somehow, and we'd want to avoid that as much as possible, but I'd have to get back to you on a firm answer.
Any other questions out there? Okay.
George Rivera, upstanding citizen of Astoria.
Nice to meet you, George.
Likewise. Question, in regards for the removal of the billboards, how long does that work to take from soup to nuts?
The actual removal is going to happen very quickly, but the duration is going to be about close to 4 months from the time we take it down, then we do our work, and then the boards will be installed again.
So the dismantling of the board will be required with cranes as well?
Yes.
Also, in regards for what you said you're going to lower the actual street level, how exactly I saw it there, but I'm trying to envision, is this going to have like a dip of some sort?
That you wouldn't notice.
That I wouldn't notice?
Yeah. We're talking about a gradual transition so that right under the mezzanine area, we get about 5 to 6 inches of additional clearance.
Right, okay. Yeah. And also, being that you're going to have closures on either the southbound side or the northbound side, has any of this stuff been given attention to Skanska, is it? That's doing the work at the LaGuardia Airport? In regards to work performance, because a coordinated effort between traffic patterns, because what happens is basically by LaGuardia Airport, you've got a lot of backed up traffic, and a contribution of this going on, it's going to create chaos. So at this time, is any of your work based on their schedule as well?
Right now, we haven't done that, but I think the Grand Central Parkway traffic is not really going to be impacted by the intersection closure per se.
Well, the exit itself will. And what happens is it actually spills from the exit, from the BQE, and then towards LaGuardia Airport. So we have a problem now. What's going to happen when this is going on?
We'll look into it and we'll get back.
Well, I understand it's a DOT issue.
Right.
But, I guess maybe based on the amount of work, when you guys are working and what Skanska's doing on the parkway itself for their bridges or the steel work that they're doing, it's just going to create.
I understand. Typically OCMC, city agency who gives the permits out, they look at the regional impact of different construction activities happening at the same time. But your point is well taken. We're going to coordinate with OCMC, and we'll get back to you on that.
And just to follow up, so we're not doing anything to the off-ramp coming from LaGuardia, so this work wouldn't have any change on traffic on the Grand Central Parkway coming from LaGuardia into Manhattan.
Well, when you have the removal of the billboard, it will. because of the exit of the.
But that happens over a weekend, one
The
night.
cars still drive on weekends too.
One night. And we're gonna have, you have 4 or 5 lanes on Hoyt Avenue North. It's split into 2 spans, so we're gonna close 2 lanes on one side, right under the billboard area, and take the billboard out. You still have traffic running on the rest of the lanes.
Got it. Okay.
All
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah.
Will you have LED lighting at the stations?
I have to get back to you on that.
I have a question, actually, I want to bring up. This has not been touched upon, but it's important, and this goes along with one of our missions for economic development in the area. Recently, I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been really a wonderful increase in the quantity and quality of retail along Astoria Boulevard, but it's not very mature, okay? It's all very recent. So I'm really concerned that this development and lack of passenger traffic, foot traffic and things like that is going to negatively affect it more than the more mature areas like 30th Avenue and Broadway. It could be devastating. So really would like to know what kind of programs, what kind of incentives you can provide. I know that during the 90s or the 2000s, Bloomberg actually gave some tax breaks to some businesses that were affected by this kind of construction. This mayor has not done that, but this is a huge problem, you know. So I don't know what you can do in terms of wayfaring, in terms of somehow trying to keep that foot traffic from disappearing. If you have any ideas along those lines, I know that it's going to be coming up. I think because of the weather, a lot of the business owners did not come today, but I know that if and when we repeat this, it's going to be a major topic of conversation.
Yeah, so that's something that's always a concern and always something, you know, we're concerned about. So for example, here, the main thing that we've done so far is that I actually went around to most of the businesses nearby. We talked about this in December to give them notice that this was happening so they can hopefully, you know, plan ahead, save some money from the holidays so they can, you know, weather this if their business is going to decline because the station is closed. And letting them know this ahead of time, letting them plan ahead, and just know that with as much notice as possible is probably one of the best things we can do. In terms of other programs, other incentives, I think there are some issues with city and state cooperation there, but it's something that if you have some ideas that you want to pursue and you want to bring to us, we're happy to consider it.
Okay, and by the same token, if you guys have any ideas along these lines, let me know to let them know, okay? That's very important, because this is a big issue, so.
I have 2 questions.
Joe, wait, Joe. Gotta record you.
Is someone here not hear me?
Yep, yeah, downstairs.
As far as the businesses, you know, the Dunkin' Donuts on 30th Avenue was actually losing between 50 and 60% of his regular revenue when you shut down 30th Avenue. And that's a Dunkin' Donuts. Forget about all the other little mom and pop shops. So it would be nice if someone somewhere came up with an idea so, as he says, these businesses that are recently opened in the last 6 to 12 months don't end up closing down. Actually, there's another question I have. Yeah, the other question.
Any other questions? Good. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for attending in this very, very frigid night. Thanks so much for coming down, and I want to appreciate our presenters coming down. Thank you so much. Let's give them a big hand. I think what I'd like to do, if you don't mind this, I could actually quickly just email you the audio file to this, if you'd like to.
Actually, I remember the question I had.
Oh.
In reference to that billboard that's going to be coming down, is there any way you guys can discuss with the billboard company about regulating their white lights? Because at nighttime, they flash and they put up this bright white where drivers are nearly blinded coming down Astoria Boulevard or coming off the Grand Central Parkway.
That won't be recorded, though.
That's something, what did you want to speak to, Vic?
Right now, we're going through the coordination with the company that owns those billboards. We'll certainly bring that issue to them.
Okay, and I want to again, I want to thank Vika Swag. Am I saying it the correct way?
Thank you.
Yes, good, good. Benny Wood. And Howard Levine.
Thanks for having us and coming out on such a cold night, as Richard said.
And listen, seriously, if you have ideas, you know, get back to us as an association. You know, we can relay this information and follow up and make sure that these things are answered. I'm not sure at this point whether we're going to have a February meeting. We're debating that right now, but we'll be sending out notices. Please go to the website. Tell your friends about the business directory we put together. We want to see it build and grow as much as possible. And again, thanks to everyone for their support, and I'll see you soon. Oh, and again, wait, I want to thank the Family Church. Isn't this a wonderful facility? Yeah. Yes. Lucas, Victor, Eric, thanks so much, guys.